need to do first.
No, you are right. And that sort of brings me on to the other question, gent. So the big talk the last 2 days coming out of Portugal and coming out of England, that United, there is definitely a necessity to have to remove players before we buy. That isn't really transfer fee based. It's more to do with the wages. Rashford's head's on the chopping block. He's out ill again for the game. So for all the talk that they've been impressed with him in training yesterday from certain media outlets, today he's sick again. So he's been sick twice now and missed 2 squads. I don't think anybody's buying him being sick. They clearly want to move him on. There's talk that Zirkzee could be quite close to going back to Italy. But the links are Man United are looking at Victor Gyökeres to bring him in now. It would be 60 million in the summer. The buyout clause now in January is 80 million. Do you think, gents, that would be a sensible move for Man United to try and add that additional firepower into the team sooner rather than later?
Go on, Lewis.
Oh, yeah, no, I thought you was twitching. Yeah, look, I think honestly, like you said, you've got a lot of issues to deal with, and the fact that you've got to sell to buy is, huge. But if you can get a player like Gyökeres in, who obviously has interest from likes of Arsenal, and you can get that in now, whether it's your most pressing need now, that's another question. But if you wait until the summer, you might miss out. So you've got to strike while the iron's hot. I don't know if it just magically solves all the issues, but Hojlund, I rate Hojlund. I think he's a good player, but I don't think he's the finished article yet. So if you can maybe get someone to come in and have a little bit more competition up front.
You rate him? What do you like about him?
What, Hojlund?
Yeah.
Great question, yeah.
Yeah, I think he's finishing and his work rate seems to be good. Obviously, he's got to work on. He's not, like I say, he's not the finished article, so he's not this prolific Haaland. But I think there's potential there. Like,
what is it about his finishing that you like?
Well, just in terms of, like I said, his movement in the box and just the fact that
in the box.
Yeah,
that's one of his worst attributes, actually.
No, I think his movement's good. I think he's mobile. Like, you got to realize of what we're looking at.
Have you watched
I'm
him
looking from the lens of who
I don't think you watched him, bro.
I haven't watched.
I agreed with him when he said his finishing is actually not that bad. His runs are horrible. That's actually one of his biggest criticisms.
Well, what I'm thinking about in terms of like what we're looking at West Ham and what I see, I'm looking at the likes of like Fulkrug or Antonio as he is now and Danny Ings. Like, so you've got someone there that is young and mobile, a mobile striker, in Hojlund. You don't like Hojlund, Don?
You know what? When he first came, I was saying to Terry that I would swap him for Jackson because I was
but
looking
you don't
at
like him.
No, listen. The more I've watched him, the more I see more weaknesses than strengths, bro. I'm not writing him off completely because he's a young player and
he's young. That's what I'm saying. I don't know why you're like. I don't know why you're on his arse, man.
He's in a bad team, but I don't see him offering much. I don't see him offering much. Like,
you don't think there's potential there? You don't think his potential?
Listen, I think everything for Rasmus has to be perfect for him to work. You know what I'm saying?
But you don't think he has potential to develop?
He's got a potential to develop because look, he's got the attributes to be a good striker. He's tall, he's physical, but he doesn't know how to use his body. For me, in the box as well, I think his movement's not great. You know what I'm saying? I think he's quite reactionary instead of being proactive. He doesn't really sniff danger enough for me. You know what I'm saying? I think his finishing itself is overstated. There's a couple chances that I've seen him miss where I'm like, yo, you should be at least even testing the keeper there. You know what I'm saying? And overall, I think he just doesn't link up play well. Away from the goals, if he's not scoring enough goals, I don't see him doing enough up there. You know what I'm saying? I just see him grappling with defenders, not using his body well, like I said, for a guy that's quite physical. He's just not it right now. And like I said, I can only see him developing in a place that's more, ready-made, and maybe a team like Arsenal, for example, where they've got a system already. You know what I'm trying to say? But right now, I'm not seeing it, bro. I see way more weakness.
Are they not selling Hojlund, are they?
Say that again, bro.
Probably not.
They're not selling Hojlund.
No. Hojlund isn't the one on the chopping block. I mean, it looks like Zirkzee. I still stand by what I said the other day. I understand that not everybody was cheering and or booing for the same reasons, but I didn't like the way he was treated. However, I still don't think it's becoming clearer and clearer that Zirkzee was somebody that was brought in under the guise of Ashworth, where they thought we will build a structure for Ten Hag and we will make this work with what we've got. and obviously people have lost their jobs and their heads have rolled for making those decisions.
It was before
Sorry?
Ashford didn't sign. It was before that.
Zirkzee. I'm talking about Zirkzee.
Oh, my bad. I thought you said Hojlund.
Sorry, yeah, I'm saying. So I think that Zirkzee will be the one who will go first. I feel like with Rasmus, what I find really interesting is when he was linked to us. Again, I like to look at what rivals say. Man United fans can be all fans can be biased about their own clubs, including me. He was a name that was in the chat of my shows, transfer shows, when strikers came up for about 18 months. He was someone that loads of people liked, loads of people rated. I feel with him.
Before you land, Terry, remember I was telling you that he looks hella clunky to me when I was watching his games.
No, and I understand that. I watched a bit of him, and I used the same thing as you, Y-Scout, and I saw a player that had. Again, when I say good, I'm talking about someone that I'm not talking about the best in the world, but I saw someone who could hold the ball up, who had great speed. They just go onto Y-Scout and look at him dribble, and he'd pick the ball up in the channels, and he would run up fullbacks. And I just thought, well, there's a really good player a really good, talented young player to develop here. Maybe slightly overpriced, but there's a player in there, and he's just not progressed in any capacity. However, I can't remove from my mind the fact that 99.9% of all players we've signed haven't progressed. So I got inspired the other day by Staffy that said about not Greenwood. We said about Zirkzee, like have the same energy. So I have the same energy for all Man United players, whether I think they're the best technically or the worst technically. If the club ruins the technically gifted footballers, what the fuck's it doing to the less talented people? Must be, for me, it's worse for them, right? Because they've got less ability. I feel like, and this is what I said earlier about Ahmad. Ahmad shouldn't be being propelled into being our star and being the leader and being the talisman. He's too young and inexperienced. He should be someone that is a complement to the core of this side. And I think Rasmus has been thrown in as the number 9 too early in his career, a team that was playing dead football with the volume of pressure. And I think it's really, really hurt him. Now, some will say, no, Terry, you're wrong, and he's just trash. Fair enough. Not having the debate. I've got my view. You've got your view. We'll see it differently. But that's why I want someone like Zirkzee. And some people say, you got, what about the development of this? No, listen, we need someone who is 25. Remember what I said about Chelsea all summer, Don?
Mm-hmm.
You guys need players that are 24, 25, 26, 27. They're experienced to help some of your youngsters. And that is what Man United need to do. So for me, I actually do think a goal scorer is that and a left-sided wing back, I think, are the two most important positions for us to address in this window. There are other important positions, but the two I'd put on the top is we need some goals. A number of these defeats we've had recently with a bagsman, I don't think we lose all those games. Someone that converts those chances, and the lack of threat on our left now. Ironically, the left-hand side of our attack was our most dangerous in the last 5-6 years. It's where most of our attacking talent was, whether you liked it or not. We have zero down the left now because Delo can't attack down there. Mazza can't attack. We have no one. Malacia is just not going to... I don't think Malacia is ever going to get to the level that we want him to. So we have to address those two areas for me. But I don't... I like the idea of Zirkzee because he's really talented. But again, he's quite young still. And there's a little bit of a lack of experience. If we can find someone, and I haven't done the research into who exactly, who is 24, 25, 26 years old, got a good amount of experience at the highest level of the game, I feel like that age profile of player is so important for Man United moving forward. There are some kids you want to sign, right? Some youngsters that are really talented, but I think we need some older players to help our youngsters. I don't want Ahmad and Mainu being the core of the team. It's ridiculous giving young
not
players.
Necessarily older, Terry. We need players that are performing. But before we move on from this, I mean, back to the Hojlund point. One of the biggest issues with Hojlund, and this is why I was kind of surprised that you said that, Lolis. Hojlund, I know a lot of people still think he doesn't get enough goals just because they don't feed him the ball. You just have to wake up and smell the coffee now. It's really not it. And I've been saying it for well over a year now. So I'm staying consistent with it because I've been proven right. If I ask you guys right now, I'm not going to even ask you because you're never going to guess it. Hojlund right now is averaging 1 shot per game in this United team. And that makes him rank 7th in the team. Garnacho has more. Bruno has more. Casemiro, who barely plays, has more. And funny enough, Zirkzee is averaging more. Zirkzee takes more shots than him, and Zirkzee actually has more GA than him. And I don't think neither of them are good enough, by the way. But Zirkzee, if I would have asked you right now without knowing, who do you think takes more shots on target or more shots in general? I'm pretty sure you guys all would have thought it's Hojlund and not Zirkzee. And that's one of his biggest issues. He spends too much time wrestling with defenders instead of making the right runs. And it's been an issue that he's had for a while. And we're playing two different systems. And these one of these things that you could coach into a player, but Terry's absolutely spot on. We made a mistake by signing two young strikers. You should never sign two young strikers back to back unless you have a senior striker in this team. And I could go back historically to every attacker United signed. We always had a senior in this team. Like the most recent one that I can remember outside of those two, when we signed Martial under Louis van Gaal, we still had Rooney in that team. And as soon as Mourinho came in, what's the first thing he did? He signed Zlatan Ibrahimovic. Even under Fergie, go back and look at Fergie. He never used to really sign a lot of young strikers, and when he did, we had a lot of seniors. Like Rooney came in, and who did we have in the team? We had Rooney and Ronaldo come in, and fair enough, Ronaldo was a striker, but we signed Rooney, and we had Van Nistelrooy winning golden boots. So that's a mistake that we've done that we need to fix right now, and that's the issue that we're suffering from. The only reason
the danger is, though, of
Sorry?
what you're doing is, I have these debates with my fan base a lot, and you'll have players that are praised and everything when things are going well. When your team's out of form, the whole team's performing badly. All of a sudden, these players that were lauded and praised are now not good enough, are now trash. It happens all the time. That's why,
of course,
I really flip flop on players. If I backed a player when we were good, obviously I will criticize performances, but you won't see me sit there and just all of a sudden I think this player is the best thing since sliced bread. Now he's trash, So I'm looking at things like that. It's just like I take that into consideration. Man United as a team are very poor right now, and I think it's easy to just write off players and go, well, obviously he's not good enough because he's not.
But it's not writing off. But it's not writing off flawless.
Yeah.
Like I have to address. At the end of the day, player development is great and all that. But when the whole team is not getting results, I need to start bringing in players that are performing right now in these roles and have them do a job for me. I go and there's no exaggeration. We go into every game knowing we're gonna offer minimal threat to the opposition's back line. You should that Spurs game where they beat us 4-3. That's the game. Honestly, I said that day. I said anyone who had any stocks in Hojlund today, you lost a lot of your stocks. So much value was lost.
You know what it is, Staffy? When I'm watching you lot, right? It's
like I was gonna say he went against Zirkzee and what's his name, the midfielder, Archie Gray. And he offered no trouble. They were not troubled for 90 minutes.
Do you know what's really?
And then a week later, Liverpool packed them with 6.
You're not wrong in terms of that game. Do you remember what he looked like when he came on against Arsenal in his debut? Do you remember his touches and his flicks and his hold up? Do you remember that game? I actually looked at him and thought, there's a player in there. And that's why for the first couple of months, Don looked at him and went, I like him. That player don't exist anymore. That player, that the boy that would try those things has gone. And it's the pressure that he was put under. Now, some will say, well, if you can't handle the pressure, get out of the kitchen. Standards FC will say, well, that proves you ain't good enough. I just went back and looked because I remember Man United back in 2004-5. I was nearly 20 years. I was turned 20 that season. Jesus Christ! Not only when we signed Ronaldo and Rooney did we have Ruud van Nistelrooy, we had Louis Saha, and we had Alan Smith. So we had Alan Smith, we had Louis Saha, and we had Ruud van Nistelrooy, who. What is Rooney's about to turn 30? So, I mean, you're talking about I think Wilfried Zaha is about 5 or 6 years older than Wayne Rooney as an example. So if Rooney was 18, he would have been in his mid-20s. Alan Smith, I think, is about 4
was that? 2006, you said?
04-05 season. 04-05. So Ronaldo had been there a year already, and we just signed Rooney. But the point is, we had a 24-25-year-old Alan Smith, who was a decent striker until his leg break. You had a 26, 27-year-old Saha, who's a very good Premier League striker, and you had one of the greatest strikers in Man United's history in Ruud van Nistelrooy there. So yes, Wayne Rooney came in and did well, but Rooney didn't come in with no support around him in a dysfunctional team. And by the way, Rooney's talent is light years ahead of Rasmus Hojlund, and this is why I feel sorry for players like Rasmus, because Rooney needed those older players around him, the experience around him, the quality structure, both at club level, in the dressing room, on the football pitch, so that he could flourish. If you look through United's history at our young players that we've bought or that we've developed, they've gone in. The ones that have done well went into teams that were good with a great core. You look through the 70s and 80s and look at some of the brilliant youngsters we signed and developed then. Didn't have the same careers as the Busby Babes before them or the Fergie fledglings afterwards. There is a key component here that's missing. So I understand people. I want better than Rasmus because we've got to start winning football matches. And if he ends up leaving. I'm not surprised he's failed, though. I'm really not. And Man United fans are a big problem in this. It was only, listen, me and you, Staffy, we love Mainu. We think he's great. I'm not seeing him have many bad games for United, but he was poor in the Wolves game, I think it was. One of our
the game before last. The game before last, it was Wolves. He was poor. Oh, I think we overhyped him. He's getting fat. He's become. I saw people turning on him in the same way. And I'm like, hang on, he had a bad game, guys. But this is the problem. Man United fans have done this now for a decade. We go, okay, well, Martial's gone now, so I can't focus on him. Oh, bloody hell, Zirkzee was the target. I'll go for Rasmus next, or I'll go for... Our players get targeted.
Nacho is another one.
Well, listen, and again, and this is why I say same energy. People pick and choose when to use the excuse of bad coaching, poorly run club. Listen, I think Pogba got ruined by this football club. But if Pogba's ability can be ruined by this club, how the hell can Garnacho's and Rasmus not be? It doesn't make any logical sense. And that's why I think that, look, and some of these players have been ruined beyond repair. And I also think as well, you'll see some of these guys leave. And this is where the conversation becomes hard. You'll see someone leave and everyone's like, oh, look how good they look. It's happened this season with McTominay. Happened with Chris Smalling. It happened with, remember when Ashley Young left? The straw that broke the camel's back was the Barcelona game, Champions League. We knocked out PSG and we lost, I think, the first leg. Started quite well in the second leg. And then Ashley Young played a bad pass. Barca went and scored. And they went and scored a couple of quick goals. He was gone. We got rid of Young. He was one of the star players of a Serie A title winning team a year later. Now, that's a different league. But, you sit there, he weren't a bad player. It was just the circumstances. And I know that rival fans never want to hear this. They just want to hear, all your players are crap. Your club is crap. Your club is not finished. We'll just say that. But we're having a grown-up conversation here. And that's why I think the next couple of windows are really important. And look, if there's we've signed some young players. They've gone into our academy. Great. But we really do need, as you say, I think you're right to add what you did, Staffy. Good age profile, but players that are currently in form that can come in. And you look at what Maz has done this year. If we had like 3 or 4 more players performing at his level consistently in different positions, even until the system is fully integrated, you'll just win some more games. It gets the media off our back. It takes a little bit of pressure off and everything else. But yeah, it's going to be an interesting window for Man United, no doubt about it whatsoever.